Welcome back, happy hookers, and welcome to day one of my very first Vlogmas. Now, it's a little bit of a cop-out. I'm not committing to 24 videos in a month. However, I am committing to 12 tutorials, which I think probably takes significantly longer to film and edit than a short vlog. So I hope you appreciate that although it is 12, there's still quite a bit that's gone into it. So 12 days of coasters coming up. You know how much I love coasters, and we're going to be starting it off with probably one of the hardest patterns that I've ever created. This took numerous attempts to get right, many different iterations, so please bear with me as we power through what turns out to be a very beautiful crochet heart. Now, it uses predominantly the single crochet. However, I would probably put this in more of an advanced beginner, simply because there's quite a bit of counting. Oh, my cat's decided to join us. Lovely. Moomin, come on, Mummy's filming a video. There's quite a bit of counting, and there is potential to kind of keep out of step. So I would take your time, print the written pattern off, tick your rows off as you go along, because there's some amazing skills to be learnt. Certainly for a crocheter in what is quite a simple project. I think it's going to stand you in really good stead. For today's heart, I'm going to be using Scheepjes SoftFun, and if you've never used Scheepjes SoftFun, then I highly recommend seeing if you can get hold of some of this. It is 60% a cotton, 40% acrylic, which gives it a really lovely soft cotton feel, but also has a little bit more bounce than cotton traditionally does. The bonus is you can actually use the ball from the centre, and it has this handy little paper tag, easy start, so that you can pull it out of the centre, and look how easily the yarn pulls out the centre, which means your ball stays in place nicely. So the concept of the crochet heart, if you've ever crocheted an oval, is to work into the front and the back of a chain, almost as if, say this was the chain, so we'll be going back and round like this, almost a little bit like the wheels on a tank, you know, that kind of circular tread as it goes all the way around. So the first thing you're going to need to do is chain 16. Now I'm going to actually use a 4.5 hook, even though this is a DK, because I find it just gives me a nice little bit of room, and it prevents me from crocheting just too tight, and often when you're working in single crochets, which is what we're going to be using predominantly. So that's single crochets in the US, double crochets if you're in the UK. So I've created my slip knot. If you are very new to crochet, I would recommend spending a little bit of time practicing both the single crochet and the chain stitch. But for now, we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on a hook, chaining ourselves 16. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And always worth doing a little count up just to make sure. So here we go, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, perfect. No matter how many times I'm confident that I've got the correct number of chains, I do always count, unless it's sort of like, you know, getting into the hundreds, and then I will count and put stitch markers in. So we're going to place 2 single crochets into that second loop from the hook, the second chain from the hook. So not the one here, not this one that we ignore this one, the one that's on the hook, we ignore the first one, and we're going to go into the second one here, and we're going to go into the back loop only. So as you can see, these are rows, look like little V's. Think of this one here furthest away from you as the back. So we're going to place 1, 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 6 in the next 6 stitches. So 1 single crochet per stitch. So that's 1. So we're inserting our hook, yarning over, pulling our hook back, pulling our loop back through. So we've got 2, and then we're yarning over and pulling through both of them. So that is the single crochet. So inserting, yarning over, pulling back through, yarning over, pulling through 2. So we want to get ourselves 6 of those. And I think I've got 6. I would just double check. So I've got my first 2 here. This one always slips down the side a little bit. That's fine. 1, 2, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to place one more in. I'm going to adjust my light a little bit because I think that will give you a bit better lighting. There we go. So in the next one, we're not going to crochet into only the back loop. We're actually going to crochet into the back loop and what's known as the hump on the back. So if we turn this over and take a look, can you see running along the center of each of these? So you've got the one at the top, one at the bottom. You've actually got a little hump at the back. Now it can be quite tricky to get into that one here. You see, I get another thing to point at it. Can be quite tricky to get into these, but what we are going to do is we are going to place our hook not only into our back loop, but what we're going to do is we're going to try and pick up the one behind. So the best thing to do is imagine you're trying to pick up the bottom loop, because in doing so, by picking up the bottom loop, what you've actually done is picked up the top and that back lump, if that makes sense, but we're going to be crocheting up rather than crocheting down. So now that we've picked up both this one and this one, we're going to actually place 3 single crochets into the same stitch. And the reason we pick up both of those loops is if we were to place 3 single crochets into just the back loop, it will probably pull it and it will probably create quite a big hole, which would look a little bit unsightly. So there we go, I've created 3. And what we're actually doing here is we're creating the bottom, the point of our heart. So now what we're going to do is we're going to crochet into the next 6 stitches along. Now what I always recommend is when you've put multiple stitches into, oh, I just knocked my lamp there, sorry. When you've put multiple stitches into one, because they're spreading quite wide, they can actually obscure the next stitch that you need to crochet into. And you might think, oh, this is definitely the next stitch, but I would just take a little bit of caution, pull those 3 stitches over, and can you see here is actually the next stitch, this one here. And if I hadn't have done that, I would have gone into this one, and then what's going to happen is all your stitches are going to be pushed round the wrong way. Well, not the wrong way, they're going to be pushed round one along, and as you go round and round, what's going to happen is your heart's going to be misshapen. So always double check, pull those stitches over, think, okay, these loops are all going into this bit here, but what this means now is I've got this stitch here, which is actually the next stitch. So working into the back loops once again, we're going to place 6 single crochets. So we've got 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what that's going to do is that's going to then leave us 1 at the end. And what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 single crochets into the end. Perfect. So it will look like a little mountain, and we want it to. Now what we're going to do is we're going to completely turn it so that it's like a nice little smile. Well, it's a strange smile if your smile looks like that. And we're going to crochet all the way along the back. Now you may find this a little bit tricky if you're new to crocheting into the back, because what you've actually got is you've got a series of crisscrosses, but if you look very carefully you can you see we've got a hole here and a hole here. So rather than going into this loop like this, I will go under both of them into each of these little holes. Can you see? You can see them there. There we go. And it's almost picking up a little bit of this loop and a little bit of that loop. And this is why I recommend going up a hook size and not using a 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to place ourselves, oh, I've got an itchy elbow, sorry about that. We're going to place ourselves a single crochet into the other side of our chain. So can you see here? This is our first one. We've got our 2 stitches here. Follow the bars of the stitches up and look at where they're going into. This little hole here, and this is where we want to be placing our first single crochet. Okay, so we're going to go into here, yarn over, tighten up as well because I have just been talking, which means that I will have loosened up a little bit, and I've got my first single crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to place 5 more along. So can you see we're going into here? Look at the stitch below. It's made up of 2 parts. We've got the V here at the top, and then we've got the 2 lines, and the 2 lines, where do they end? Well, they end where this hole here is, so that is where I'm going to be placing my hook into here and yarning back through. Okay, so again, look, can you see I'm going to be going where they crisscross. Look at the 2 lines coming up from the stitch. So now we've got 3, 4, 5, we want 6 in total. So what's going to happen here is, can you see we've got 1 more here, and then the next one is that loop that we left when we placed 3 into 1. So we've got the hole just before it, we've got the large loop which would have been the stitch we increased, and then what we want to do is we want to locate the stitch after. So can you see, here's the stitch, follow it up, just pop your hook in. You should be very easily able to see. Now that I've popped it in, I can actually see a little bit of a hole. We're going to do something known as crocheting 2 stitches together, and we're going to do that using the single crochet. So we're actually going to crochet, the 2 stitches we're going to crochet together are the one before the group of 3. We're going to miss this one, and we're going to pick up the one after. What that's going to do is it's going to pull it together and hold our heart into place. So how we do this is we do half of a single crochet by inserting our hook, yarning over and pulling back through. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to yarn over and complete the stitch. We're then going to create the first half again of the single crochet. So skipping this one here, placing our hook into the one straight after, we're going to yarn over, and there you go. Can you see? But now we need to finish the stitch, but we're going to finish it all together by yarning over and pulling through all 3. And what that will do is that will pull them all together nice and tight. So now we need to create another 6 single crochets into the next 6 stitches. Let's get a bit more yarn. I keep knocking my lamp. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Fabulous. There we go. And you see now, if we place that down, we crocheted all the way along here. This is where we increased our 3. We went all the way round and back down. We joined 2 together, missing out this stitch in the centre, but joining the ones either side, and then we crocheted all the way along. And that's essentially how we're going to continue to work. There are going to be some increases around here to build up those parts of the love heart, but we're always going to be popping an increase of 3 in the point, and we're always going to be single crocheting 2 together the other side of the point, missing that central stitch. So the next thing we have to do is we need to slip stitch back round into the first stitch. Now luckily that stitch isn't a million miles away because it's the first stitch in the beginning of a chain. It always tends to slip to the side if you're familiar with crochet. So I would pop it on its end like this, pick your loop back up, and then what you need to do is go into that first stitch and create a slip stitch. So essentially all you do is yarn over, pull through the stitch and pull through the one that is in. And there you go. There you have your first stitch, slip stitch ready to go. Okay, so we're ready for round 2 of the heart, and the chap across the way has decided to start mowing his lawn, so there's a little bit of rumbling in the background, but never mind. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and the turning chain never counts as a stitch in this instance. And after every chain 1, you're always going to crochet straight into the stitch which you slip stitched into and the chain 1 came out of. So that's this stitch. So the first stitch is always, like I say, the true first stitch. If you do accidentally go into the next stitch, what you're going to find is you're going to shift your stitches all the way around in the same way that I mentioned before. So when you're slip stitching in, if it's easier to pop a stitch marker in to just remind yourself where you are, then that's always worth doing. So we're going to 2 single crochet into the first stitch. So 1, 2. Oh, my cat's meowing, she's probably going to join us. And then we're going to 2 single crochet into the next stitch. Oh, I've got a bit of a yarn tangle. Anybody here with me suffer the same? So then we're going to single crochet into the next 7 stitches. Ooh, so 1, 2, 3. I'll aim to go slow so we can do this together. 4, 5, 6. And what you want to be aiming for is that 7th stitch is going to go into the first one of your 3. So can you see here? That was my 3. 1, 2, 3. My 7th stitch takes me to the 3. Because what we're always going to be doing is placing 3 single crochets into that center one. So we need to pop 3 single crochets into the center to keep the point of our heart always in the same place. And as I said before, just make sure that you're not obscuring the true first stitch after that. So straight after, you're going to place 7 along here. And that's a good thing to remember, is if you did 7 before the point, you'll do 7 after the point, because it wants to be mirroring. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. Okay. So what you're going to do now is you're going to place 2 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So 2 into that one, then another 2 into the next one, and then another 2 into the next one, and that brings us nicely round the side of the heart. So after you've placed your 2 into the next 3, what you're then going to do is you're going to single crochet into the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, missed my way. and you'll know if you're on track, and always good to keep checking that you're on track. You know if you're on track because the next free stitch will be the one just before that center one there. And as we did last time, what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet together the one either side of this center one here. So we're going to insert our hook, yarn over and pull through, skip this one, which you'll always know because it will be the larger one. You're then going to place your hook into the one after, yarn over, pull back through, and then you're going to finish that stitch by pulling all three together like this. So once you've joined your two together in the crook, if you like, of the heart at the top, what you're going to do is you're going to single crochet the same amount you did before. So we did 4 single crochets before the join, so we're now going to do 4 single crochets the other side. So that's 1 single crochet into every stitch along for 4. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 single crochets into the last stitch, and then what we need to do is we need to slip stitch to the first one of the original round. Now this is where you want to be really careful, because I can tell that this is actually the first stitch of the previous round, and you might be thinking, well, what's all of this? So let's break it down. We know that this is the first stitch of the previous round because we can see this is the pair. Can you see we've got 1 stitch, 2 stitch, and they're both going into this. I know that I placed 2 single crochets in the first one. This little stitch here is our chain, and this stitch here is our slip stitch, and it creates what looks like a stitch. But I don't want you to worry about either of those. I want you to turn it on its side, and I want you to miss this and miss this, and I want you to place your hook into that first stitch. Make sure you've got your tension and you've pulled any slack, and then you're going to slip stitch through both of them like this to join yourself up into this stitch here. And then what we're going to do is we're then going to chain 1, and then we're going to go straight back into the same stitch here that we've just worked out of. So can you see this is the slip stitch, this is the chain 1, we're going back into the same place. Let me check so that focuses. We're going back into the same place that we went in. You might find it useful to place a stitch marker here. Let me grab a stitch marker and then I can show you for next time. Okay, so we're on to round 3, and for round 3 you're going to 2 single crochet into the first stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first single crochet and then a second one into the same place, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pop my stitch marker into this stitch. Oh, it's quite hard on camera, there we go, into that first stitch. So I know that when I've completed and I've got round, I'm going to be skipping this slip stitch and this chain, and that is definitely my true first stitch. Okay, so round 3, 2 single crochets into the first stitch. You're going to place 1 into the next. Okay, then you're going to place 2 into the next. Okay, so we placed 2 into the first stitch, 1 into the next stitch, 2 into the next stitch. Now we're going to place a single crochet in the next 9 stitches. So this is a count of 9 all the way up to that point. 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the nice bits. 6, because you get a nice little row. 7, 8, 9. And if you do end up missing a stitch or going too far, it honestly happens to everybody, so I really wouldn't worry. Just take a look, see if you can work out where you went wrong, because that's half the battle, is understanding what you did. And if you need to pull it down and do the last row, it's always a learning curve, and you'll know for next time. So this brings us nicely up to that center point, and as usual what we're going to do is we're going to place 3 single crochets into the center point. And then we're going to make sure that we definitely are going into the first stitch after that, and we're going to place 9 single crochets all the way along. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you can hear some slurping in the background, my cat has decided she's going to come and clean herself at the chair behind me. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so we've got our 9, so on to round 3, so we've got our 9. So there's a few combos round the corner here, so I'm going to go really slowly. So we're going to place 2 single crochets into the next stitch and 1 single crochet into the next stitch after that, and you're going to do that twice. So you're going to place 2 in the next stitch and then 1 in the stitch after that, 2 in the next stitch and 1 after that. Then you're going to place another 2 into the next stitch. Okay, so that was a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 1, and then finally a 2. You're then going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, bringing us nicely to that center stitch that we'll miss, and we'll identify it because it's, well, hopefully in the center, but it's also a little bit longer than the rest. Joining stitches when you're stitching 2 together always are a little bit longer because you're having to kind of pincer a gap together. So we go in, yarn over, miss, in, yarn over, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Fabulous. So straight after the single crochet 2 together, we're going to place 3 singles in the next 3 stitches. There we go, hearts coming together nicely there. And then we're going to place 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then we're going to place 1 single crochet into the final stitch. And then can you remember, this is our slip stitch, this is our chain 1, and this is our true stitch. So that handy little stitch markers just helped remind us where we are actually going in order to slip stitch to join for round 3. And can you see we've got our heart nicely taken shape. Lovely jubbly. Lovely jubbly, I haven't said that in a long time. If you do end up like I have with a couple of little extra bits, can you see there was a little bit of loose on the join? That's very, very easy to fix in terms of just popping your crochet hook in here, can you see, and pulling that little bit of extra to the back. And can you see that's completely gotten rid of it. It just means that when I did my original join, I had a little bit of extra slack on it on my hook. But once you've kind of stretched it out, you can barely see it. Okay, round 4, we've got our slip stitch and our chain 1. and we're going to place a single into the first 2 stitches. And I'm going to pop my stitch marker back in. So a single and a single, and then we're going to place a double. So 2 single crochets into the next. And we're going to do the same again. So we're going to place 1 single crochet, another single crochet into the next stitch. Then I'm going to place a double, 2 single crochets into there. That's that bit sorted. So single, 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 increase, single, single, increase. Yeah, that's right. Single, single, increase, single, single, increase. Lovely. Now we're going to place 9. Here's the easy bit again. 9 single crochets. So 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm getting comfy. Does anyone else have any tips for making sure you don't get too stiff when you're sat crocheting? 5. Need a nice big comfy beanbag. 6, 7, 8. Oops, hit the camera. 9. What do you like to crochet on? Let me know. Sofa, beanbag, floor cushion. You've got to keep that back in good shape. Okay. Corner, lovely. Let's place 3 single crochets in the corner. And we're nearly at the end. This is round 4. Okay, 9. Make sure you're going into definitely the next stitch along. 9 single crochets all the way along. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, on the written patterns, I've actually written each of these stages on a separate row because it can be so easy to skip a stage, repeat a stage, especially when you've got such repetition round the corner. So we're going to place 2. We're going to be doing a 2, an increase, and 2 singles, an increase, 2 singles, and an increase. So that's 3 increases with 2 singles in between. So let's take that slowly. 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Okay. A single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1, 1, an increase. So that's 2 single crochets into that stitch. And then a single crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then finally our last increase. So 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And then all being well, you should have 4 single crochets in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, which will bring you nicely in line for those 2 single crochets together. So here we go. We're going to single crochet this one, skipping the larger one in the middle to this one after. So insert, yarn over, skip into the next one, insert yarn over, yarning over, and pulling through all 3 nice and tight. There we go. Then we're going to single crochet into the next 4 stitches along. So that's 3, 4. And then we're going to finish the row by placing 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So 2 into that stitch. Being careful not to go into this one, our slip stitch or our chain stitch, but knowing that where our stitch marker is here, is where we're going to place our slip stitch to complete round 4. Okay, so we've got 2 more rounds to go. So bear with me, it will definitely be worth it. This is a labour of love, hence the heart, no pun intended. So round 5. So chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet into the first stitch, which is the one that you have just slip stitched into. So sometimes it can be a little bit tighter. I just split my stitch there, so it can be a little bit tighter because you have just squished a lot in there. So I'm going to pop my stitch marker back in so I know where I'm going. So we single crocheted into the first stitch. So you're going to put 2 into the next one. So 1, 2. Then you're going to put 3 single crochets into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to put 2 into the next stitch. And then you're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. No, you're not. I'm reading my own pattern wrong. How funny. So you've placed 2, and then you did 3, and then you placed 2. So now we're going to place 12. So there should be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Fabulous. Let's persevere. We'll just wipe over that little bit. So 12 all the way along. Let's be daring. Let's not even count. This is definitely, I would say, an advanced beginner. It's certainly not an advanced stitch by any means, but I think from a pattern reading, keeping count, recognising where you should be in the pattern, it definitely calls for patience and perseverance. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got 1 more to go. That'll be number 12 in there. Okay, so we're going to place our 3 into our corner. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to place 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A bit more yarn. There we go. 5. Where are we at? Yes. 6. The sun's coming back up now, or going back down rather. 7. Some rays of light. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. And because I picked it up and put it, as I put it down and picked it back up, I'm going to double check my counting, always wise. So here's my 3. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yes. Okay, onto a corner. So it's going to be 2 single crochet into the next one, followed by 3 singles. So 1, 2, followed by 3 singles. 1, 2, 3. This is the moment when my iPad decides to die, and I'm going to have to just try and remember the pattern. Lovely. So it was 2 single crochets followed by 3. Okay, so then it's going to be another 2 here. Definitely followed by another 3. And then it's going to be 2 singles here. And then we're going to place 2 down to the corner. or the crook. What would you call that? The valley. So then we're going to place our join together. And we're going to place 2, 1, 2, and we're going to place 2 together here, and then we're going to place 2 here. Okay, so we get that, and then we're going to join. Take our stitch marker out, skipping our slip stitch and our chain, and slip stitching in. There we go. Looking good. Okay, one more row to go. We can do this, and then our coaster will be complete. Okay, so we're on to the 6th and final round. Awesome. Awesome is all I can say, because this is a bit of a beast of a coaster, but well done if you've made it this far. So let's do our turning chain. Although it's not a turning chain because we're crocheting continuously. We're going to place a single crochet into the first stitch, and we're going to pop our stitch marker in. If anyone's interested where I get these stitch markers from, there is a link in the description below. They're probably the best for not falling out, but also not snapping. If you've ever used the ones that look like a little paper clip slash safety pin, I always tend to find that the bit that you do that with, my lovely pincer, it usually snaps, which is highly annoying. But these are fantastic, although you do tend to lose them a little bit like hair grips. Nobody quite knows where they go. So we single crocheted into the first stitch, and we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So in actual fact, it's single crochet into the first 4 stitches. But I thought if we do that one at the beginning and then get our stitch marker in, we'll be good to go. So 1, 2, 3, 4 into the first 4 stitches. A little bit more yarn. And I haven't actually used very much at all. I mean, there's still quite a lot in this ball left. So I would say I've used less than a quarter, maybe even a 1/6. So we single crocheted into the first 4 stitches. We're then going to put 2 into the next stitch. And then we're going to place another 4 singles into the next 4 stitches. Then we're going to place 2 into the next stitch. And then once we've done this, we're on to our nice long row of 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Lovely. Okay, so 3 into the centre. 1, 2, 3. And then 11 along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you hear that? That was my belly gurgling. I must be getting ready for some dinner. Okay, where are we at? After that slightly unpleasant interruption, I do apologise. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, and then the red arrows go over. Yeah, that we live near the Red Arrows acrobatic aeroplane team, so we often fly overhead, which is a nice little bit of local entertainment. Okay, counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One more. Fabulous. So we've got our 3 and then we've got our 11. Okay, so the last corner. So we're going to be doing 2, 4, 2, 4, 2. So there's always 3 increases. So here's the first increase. And then this time we're going to do 4 singles around the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Then we do another increase. So 1, 2, another 4 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our final increase. So there is method to this sort of repetitive corners, the rounded bit section. So after we've done that, we're then going to single crochet into the next 4 stitches along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to set us up nicely for our final decrease, single crocheting 2 together. So here we go, here's the one in the middle, the ones either side. So insert yarn over, skip, insert yarn over, making sure they're all nice and tight, and pull them through. Can you see how I've got that little bobble? If you've got a really big one like I have there, I would recommend pulling that down, because all that's happened is it's this that's getting squished. So let's see if we can try that again, but putting it to the back. I don't think we're going to be able to. I think it's going to be something that we're just going to have to, like I say, grab hold of at the back and pull. There we go, pull it a little bit tighter through. In fact, I can see there. So it's just making sure that this one here is nice and tight, because that's the one, although we're on the last round, that's the stitch that gets squished the next time and causes that little bit. Okay, so 4 singles straight after the decrease. Oh, I got a little bit zealous there. Popped my hook out. So 3, 4. Awesome. Okay, so we're now going to put 2 singles into that last stitch, and then what I'm going to show you is how to do a nice invisible join. So if you want, you can simply, sorry, I'm just readjusting in my chair, always good to get comfy, like I said. You can slip stitch into this stitch. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the invisible join. So take your yarn and leave yourself 8 inches. And then you're going to need a darning needle or a bodkin, whichever you prefer. I really like this set because it forces me to put them back into the holder and not lose them down the side of the sofa. And then you're going to, in fact, what you're going to do is you're going to pull your yarn all the way through like so. And then you're going to thread your needle. I like these as well because look how big that is. Very easy to pop your yarn through. As she says that, and then it's probably going to be hard. No, that would have been embarrassing if I'd have stuffed it in. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pull this across and look at where you're planning on joining it. So I'm going to join it into this stitch here, which was going to be the one that we would have slip stitched into anyway. So taking your needle, you're going to place it from the back to the front through both of the loops, and then you're going to close it like so. and you're going to pull it till the length of stitch here is approximately the same length as your length of stitches. You're then going to take your yarn and put it over to the back. It doesn't really matter where. And what you're going to do is, this is the stitch, can you see that the yarn came out of? So if you take a look, can you see this here? This stitch is where it came out of. It came out, it went through the back and went to the front. So where it came out, I want to take my needle and I want to pop it in here. Yeah, does that make sense? So I'm essentially going to be popping it like that. So it's going to mimic a stitch. So the centre of where it came out of is where we're going to go in, but we're going to go in the centre, pushing it through to the front like this. And what's that going to do? That's going to close up the back piece here and the front piece here like this, and it's going to mimic, can you see it's mimicked a stitch? So it just means you have a little bit of a tighter edging. What I then do is I then mimic the stitch going down. Can you see these posts? And I just pop my needle in like so to push it through to the back and make sure that I'm happy with the size and tension of my stitch. And then what that means is I can then turn over and I can weave my end in. Now what I'm going to do with this in previous makes of this is I'm going to weave it across here, and then I'm going to weave it down, and as I weave it down I'm going to pick up any of these slightly looser stitches on the front from my decreases. So I'm going to probably weave it through a few here and take it along here and then up here, and then I'm about ready to turn over, and I can very easily see where they are. Here we go, here's one, here's two. My cat has decided to now play with the box. There we go, can you see? They're these ones here. So I'm going to take it all the way down these stitches. Yeah, she's definitely playing with the box. And now to pull them tight, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop a little stitch in at the side just to give it a bit of tension, and then I'm going to go back to the centre. And I'm not too fussy about the back of my coasters. This clearly has because we've made this without turning, it clearly has a defined front and back. So for me, I'd rather the front look as tidy as possible. I don't really mind about the back. I'm not going to be picking it up. And so let's just have a quick look. Can you see? There we go. That's absolutely pulled those in all neat and tidy. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave my way up to my joining. So I'll probably take it through here. And then I'll take it up here. And weave it all the way to the beginning. And then once I've got to the beginning, again, popping my needle back in, I'm going to tie a couple of knots into here. Careful not to pull too tight so as to misshape the heart. Some people like to secure this with a little dot of super glue. It really just depends on what your care plan's going to be for this. Is it going to get thrown in the washing machine? Is it going to be somewhere that's not going to get particularly dirty? If it's not going to be used for coasters and cups, it's probably not going to get coffee or tea stained. So it's really up to you. So you will always find, if you're new to crochet, you will always find that it doesn't lie particularly flat straight away. What you may have to do is what's called blocking. I generally pop them on my ironing board, take a little water spray, give a little spritz. Please do not iron it. If you iron it, it will completely lose all form and shape and just be a sort of quite sad floppy little thing. So a water spritz and a pat down overnight and it will perfectly form into a flat shape. Alternatively, if you have a steamer, a garment steamer, you can equally give it a steam. So there is your heart-shaped coaster, ready for having got a drink. There we go. Got a nice little can, not crocheting tea today, more lemonade and crocheting lemonade. There we go. Thank you ever so much for bearing with me. I am aware this was quite a complicated pattern and with plenty of interruptions from cats and the red arrows, and actually here is my cat. Her tail is about to come onto camera. Yes, from red arrows, rumbling tummies, my iPad dying, various things. I hope you've enjoyed the first one of 12 days of coasters. My first year doing Vlogmas, very excited. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps the channel and it helps put my video in front of more people that are likely to enjoy it. So thank you ever so much for watching. Happy hooking and I'll see you soon. Bye.